चिंगारी ये है जवाग भी जिस्मों के पीछे.
God damn it, what are we even doing here at midnight, in front of someone's house? He muttered, gripping the steering wheel tightly, glancing around anxiously. If anyone look at us, what they will think? So he rolled her eyes. Relax, drama queen. Jimin was right. You're a coward. She rolled her eyes, slumping back in her seat. Coward, really? He shot a glare. You are the one who hides behind the nearest couch the moment anything remotely dangerous happens. Then he smiled. And for your information, I'm the one of the best sniper. You all should be grateful I'm here. So he scoffed. Delusional. She murmurs and Taeyang gritted teeth. If you didn't come with Jungkook, I will never let you sit in my car. I have to clean it, he murmurs and so he glares it. It is already gross, she huffed and Taeyang that glared at her. You will definitely die someday from my hands, and why I am talking to you, bitch. He muttered and so he dead glares at her. Who comes to meet sister at this late? Is he crazy or something? He murmurs and so he sighed as she glanced at house. Did anyone tell you all are dumb? Taeyang glares at him. You call yourself sniper and a spy, right? You observe enemies' moves and suspicious activities. I guess you're fooling them for years. And you couldn't observe a big change here in your own gang. That's your mafia boss. She said in Taeyang's front. What rubbish you are talking. And who the hell are you to tell me I'm doing my job properly or not? Just a girl. I don't take advice from girls. So he shook her head. Misogynist behavior, alien. She utters and then immediately clenched his jaws. Alien. Do this first. Fight. Should I give you guns too? The voice came from car speakers. Chen Young. Yeah. It's been hour. You both are fighting. At least disconnect your com. Why are you making us just to hear your stupid fight? His voice was sleepy. I guess we should put them often together. One day one of them and one. Then I will have only one enemy left. Shut up, Shorty. They exchange glances. Here Jungkook came. So he looks as he's really frustrated. As so he stepped out before Taeyang does, and Taeyang scoffed. Babysitter in the house. He murmurs. What happened? Where were you? She grabs his wrist, sensing the tension buzzing under his skin. Vine stands behind the curtain, clutching the fabric like it's the only thing holding her together. Her gaze follows the small interaction outside, her chest tightening at the sight of the Sohi's hand on his. Her heart sinks. The storm behind her brews silently. You could have just said that you had someone else. She closes her eyes for a moment, voice cracking in pain. I would have never looked at you. She turns away, releasing the curtain slowly, and walks deeper into the room, into the silence. You all can go. I come later. His voice cold and laced with anger. What? You made us wait for this whole time, and now what? You're walking off into the night alone. Are you serious? Are you out of your mind? He points towards the street, eyes widening in disbelief. It's not safe for you to roam around like this. Not at this hour. Not with your face. His tone was shift, a mix of concern and command. Get in the car. Jungkook doesn't even flinch, his jaws tightens, his face curls slightly. I said I'm coming later. There is a shimmering rage in his voice like a storm just beneath the first face. Taeyang clenched his jaws, stepping forward instinctively, protective instinct flaring. Not at this hour, Jungkook. His voice exploded into night, sharp and sudden, echoing off the quiet street. A silence follows heavy tense. Zoe flinches slightly at the outburst while Jimin's expression drops. The playful glint in his eyes replaced by something more serious, even somber. Don't raise your damn voice at me. Then don't act like I don't know what I'm doing. Let me live. I want freedom. I don't want 100 people always surrounding me. Let me breathe. His voice cracks just slightly, but it's buried beneath the rage. If living really leads me to death, then let me die peacefully. The other stands frozen, shocked. His anger wasn't loud, it's strong, was deeper than any of them expected. Don't act childish, Shanko. Yes, I was just a child, but I was never allowed to be one. There is a wavering emotion in his voice, anger and frustration. Silence smells like a thunderclap. His chest rises and falls. His fists are clenched. He's not just angry, he's breaking years of pressure of expectation, of being washed, guarded, forced into roles he never chose, or boiling over. Shimin glanced around nervously. They were in the middle of the quiet residential society, and any onlooker would mistake for a group on the verge of collapse. As he looks at Jungkook, he's trembling with anger, and he doesn't know what triggered him so bad because for the first time he's bursting out like this. Taeyang also looks at him stunned because he knows Jungkook since he was a kid. They have grown up together, and he treated him like his own brother. He never acted this rough before, even in his hardest time. But this time, something which is really deep and urging as he ran fingers through his hair and folded hand in front of them. Let me be with myself for a while. Let me breathe. Please, I request you all, he said, folding his hand in front of them. Don't worry, I'm not dying anytime soon. I have still time. It was bare over whisper. Taeyang finally looked away, pressing his lips tight to stop them from trembling. Jimin turned toward the car, unable to bear the sight. Even Jen, always the voice of reason, didn't protest this time. So he was just staring him as Jungkook moves from her side, walking from there, and she just side-eyed on him walking. She didn't stop him, just let him go like everyone else. And Taeyang took a deep breath. Taeyang exhaled slowly, chest rising and falling with effort. He watched Jungkook's silhouette grow smaller and smaller until darkness swallowed it whole. Then, with a flick of wrist, he pulled out his phone and dialed. Just stay near him. Don't show yourself. Don't go close. Just keep an eye. He hung up before the reply came, sliding the phone back into his pocket with a clenched jaw. His stare lingered on the part Jungkook took as if hoping just maybe he would turn around, but he didn't. He looks at Zoe, who is looking where Jungkook disappeared, and he sighed. Do you know what's wrong with him? He asked out of blue, and Zoe snapped back as she took a deep breath. He never behaved like this before. You are his best friend after all. You must be aware he called you for a specific reason. He questioned her again as she glanced at him. She slowly turned her gaze toward him, her expression unreadable, a storm behind her calm. He didn't say anything clearly. Her voice was low, careful. Taeyang tilted his head slightly, absorbing the words, not defensive but unsettled, searching for an answer that wouldn't come. It's strange, but he's scared. And when Jungkook is scared, he pushes. She utters with a firm smile. Jungkook and scared, what rubbish, he said, scoffing, and so he sighed. You won't understand. Thing rolled his eyes. Because you always mold words. I just don't like twisted and poetic things. I like people be straightforward. He spoke and she smiled. That's why we would never get along. Isn't it obvious? Taeyang sighed, and her attention caught by a car horn. Move your car, this is not your meeting room, he shouted from his car, and Taeyang rolled his eyes. Go, she said. Aren't you coming? He asked, and she raised brows. Just a while ago, someone told me he wouldn't let me sit in his car if Jungkook isn't here. So, he's not here, she said, and then gave her a look. How will you come? He asked, and she poked her cheeks. There are 10 cars behind yours. I will come in any, she said, and then glared at her. He trusts the mafia man at this late. I don't trust you either, Officer Kemp, she said, poking her cheeks. So you please stop arguing at midnight. Just come and sit in my car. We both just need a place to argue. He shouted from his car, and so he raised brows as she walks there, while kept glaring at her. I hate her. Let her do whatever she wants to. I don't care. He sat in his car. It took ages. I would have hit his car. He murmured, moving his. He puffed his cigar as he held some presents, and he chuckled sarcastically. He'll never leave me alone, he mutters. His eyes are heavy like an ocean in front of him. The water sound is so soothing, relaxing as he closes his eyes, feeling the silence. How can she even fall in love with a man like me? I don't even love myself. He chuckled, the sound hollow as if the laughter was more of a shield than an expression of true amusement. His gaze drifted to the horizon, the night sky melding in water in a seamless blend of dark blues and purples. It felt endless, just like the void inside him. The wind tugged in his hair for a moment, and he felt something vulnerable, raw, and just out of reach. His hands clenched around the cigar, but the burning sensation did not do anything to calm the fire inside him, and eyes closed. Her eyes vibrated her voice barely above the hush of the waves. I looked in her eyes like I owned them, like they were my home. His breath caught even wrong. He wasn't talking to anyone, but the silence listened like the old. I looked her exactly how she felt. Yes, yes. His voice cracked, filled with helpless connection. It's not your fault that you felt that way. I made you feel that way. I made you feel that way. I am pushing you away. I am unable to do that too. With the force I push you, I want to pull you closer 2,000 times stronger. There's a smile tucked on his face. But if I do that, if I choose you, then I'm selfish. And I can't be selfish. I can't. His voice fractured, his lips trembled, but no tears came, as if grief was too heavy to be released. What should I do to change everything in just speed of light? What should I do to make it alright just for a moment? His eyes started toward the sky, seeking a sign that never came. And you love me, you just make me weak. I can't be weak. If I go weak, then everything will end. Everything, he utters. I can't even die peacefully because the weight I am carrying on my shoulders. These people don't even let me die. My world is too dark, he mutters. Oh, I should tell you. Can't tell you. His voice trembles. You are acting the way I always wanted. But I'm not liking that either. What I want. He sank deeper into sand, arms spread out, body surrendering to the earth as if hoping it would swallow him whole. Chan Jungkook, you have gone mad. You ruined someone's life. Again, like you always do. Here it is looking at sky. He tilted his head to side, gazing up at the stars with eyes that barely held themselves together. You're worse, the worst, monster. You don't deserve love. You don't deserve anything. His voice cracked, sharp, loud, raw, as he screamed into the night. And just like that, silence fell again, broken only by the sound of waves and the heartbeat he couldn't quite. You stained the most beautiful thing in the world. You ruined it. His voice cracks as he covers his face. Just lost once again. Vine was biting her lips, staring up at Seren, whose head was lowered. Her expression unreadable, a pit formed in Vine's stomach. As she stood up slowly, her hands were cold with nerves. What happened? Why are you looking like that? Don't scare me, Seren. She forced a laugh, but her voice trembled. Did I feel? I knew it, I knew it. I should have double checked my clinical answers. Seren didn't say a word. Instead, she stepped forward and gently took Vine's hand. Vine's hand. Heart started thumping wildly in her chest. Seren, please just say it. Don't keep me in suspense like this. I cannot handle it. I swear. Seren placed her hands on Vine's shoulders. Finally spoke. You got the first rank. Vine blinked. Yeah, I knew I was going to fail. Seren stared at her blankly. Wait, what did you say? Seren broke into white green and suddenly pulled her into a hug. You topped the whole university, idiot. You are the topper. Future Dr. Wine. Woohoo, I'm super proud of you. Wine froze in her arms, still trying to catch you. I topped. Seren jumped back like a cat on a sugar rush, spinning in a full circle. Cheers erupted in the background, but Maya stood there, stunned, almost in tears. She covered her mouth bedsheet. What about your result? Siren paused mid-roll and turned around. We got backlogged in two subjects. Vine's eyes widened. Siren, it's fine. This is perfect. Now I finally have a reason to drop the degree. Opa can't force me anymore. She grabbed Vine's hand and pulled her into a celebratory dance. Who cares about my backlogs? We are celebrating you tonight. Let me tell you, Opa. She scampered to a corner, already calling her brother while Vine stood frozen, hands over her heart, laughter and disbelief mingling in her throat. Then her phone rings as she looks and closed her eyes before attending. Hi. You took ages to pick my call. Wine bit her lips. Yeah, I was in university. She muttered, feeling uncomfortable. We are getting engaged soon. Don't you think you should spare some time for me? She remains silent and he chuckles. Just joking, don't mind. Mine just nodded, lowering her head. Fine. She stopped as she saw she was on call and Wine looked at her. Who? She mounted and Wine covers the microphone. Chaniel, she whispers and Seren made office. Opa, she's on call with her soon-to-be husband. She continues moving again and Wine looks at her. Yes, you will come home, then you can congratulate her, yeah, he said. Wine? His tone made her flinch. Actually, I'm really busy right now, Chaniel. I'll call you later. Before he could reply, she ended the call. Silence hung around her for a moment. As she checked her phone and her brows jolted slightly, seeing his 50 missed calls from last night, all around 3 a.m. No messages, no voice notes, just silence and ringing. Her thumb hovered over the call history, her eyes narrowing. She had blocked him last night. Sailing, she approached her. Hmm? She asked. Mr. John was going out today, didn't you go? She asked, nervous but firm. I'm not aware, is he? She asked and I realized. Wait, I'll ask. Opa, were you going somewhere today? The call got declined as she heard a beep down and she frowned. While Ryan's eyes widened, realizing, knowing he was still on the call and she felt her phone vibrating for a second. Do we have a network issue here? She frowned. Ryan's heart skipped. Her eyes snapped at to her phone screen. Just for a moment, just a flicker, his name flashed on the screen again and disappeared. Declined automatically, reason is obvious. Leave it. Let's celebrate, then we have to go home, right? You're coming with me. I won't listen, no. She said, dragging her and Ryan side. Jason, where is Opa? She asked as Jason looked around. He was there a while ago, I don't know. He said looking around and Ryan sighed in relief. Hi love. He came in a sudden turn and smiled. He told me you're out of town. Then what is this? She asked being surprised and he came and pulled her in a warm hug. You missed me, I came. He broke the hug and said and smiled. Are you serious? She asked and he nodded smiling. Hey, hi Ryan. He greeted her as Swan does to hi. You know, babe, Ryan topped in university. She excitedly tells and Leona's smiling. Great, congratulations to you. He said, hugging her, and Ryan smiled. Thanks, Juno. And what about you? He asked and said and scratches her head as she clears her throat. I got backlogs in two subjects. And Nina smiled. I'm not so surprised as expected from you, he said, pulling her cheeks and then bit her lips. Now I know why Jungkook is in a hurry to marry you. You don't have any focus on studies. Then gave him a look. Oh, hello. I don't have interest in this degree. This I was doing because of Oppa. I want to be fashion designer and model. He said and in his Spencer's eyes. Tell him he will tell you. He said and then gave him a look. You are my soon to be hubby, right? Now you will save me from Oppa. Do your job or I will cancel this wedding. She scolded him and Ryan smiled looking at them. You want me to argue with the mafia boss? Are you trying to veto yourself before the wedding? Seren Spencer rose. If you don't speak for me, I'll cancel this wedding right now. Yenu gave her a look and Spencer rose. Then I love my life. Seren gasped as she smacked his arm. Yeah, she smacked his arm hard and he jumped back. Are you even serious? How dare you to say that? She kept sweating him at him and he laughed and backed away. I said, and you're gonna break my ribs before our honeymoon. I'll break your face before that. She chased after him, heels clacking, her hair flying. Ain't she? He ducked behind her and dramatically. Please save me. Your best friend is out of blood. You think it's easy dealing with the mafias? Don't drag me into this. You brought this to upon yourself. Opa will kill you later, but I will definitely kill you first. She lunged at him playfully, trying to smack his arm again. I got trapped in wrong family. Baby, we have wine. You said yourself she handles Jungkook so well. Why not send her? Why sacrifice my perfect average life? Wait, what? What's happening here? His voice came as your nose stood straight as Seren dust, while Van quickly looked at me. Nothing, Oppa. Nervously smiled. Your nose stiffened, Seren snapped upright like a shoulder. while Saren suddenly pulled Ryan close. Rusty, please save me this time. I don't trust this chap. She whispered to her, smiling at Jungkook, while Ryan looks at her, widening her eyes. Me. How was your result? He asked coldly to Saren, and Saren's blood got cold. Actually, Opa, absolutely right. Ryan dropped in university. Nervously, and Jungkook's expression didn't flicker. His arms folded across his chest with measures control. What's in result, Jungkook? It's just a piece of paper, and a single piece of paper can't decide her future. He said, laughing nervously, and Jungkook turned his gaze to ice cold and unreadable. Yuno's smile died instantly as he straightened like he would slap with silence. I need to do something. He will kill me with a lecture. And Nan shut her eyes as she doesn't know what to say and how to start. Um, actually, Opa, back in two subjects. Cuts her off. I spoke to your principal. Terence shut her eyes tightly. Ryan could hear the blood rushing in her ears. Jungkook's tone was low but dangerous, like thunder beneath a calm sea. This is what you all do, Seren. I told you have fun and everything, but compromise with your study I won't accept. Jungkook, Jungkook raises his palms without looking at him, silencing him instantly. Oppa, I didn't mean to mess up, You didn't mean to? His voice wasn't loud, it didn't have to. It was silence between his words that made Seren shrink. Seren, let me be very clear with you. I gave you all freedom of doing everything right, but hear me out. You aren't going to marry until you stand on your own feet. Did you get that? His voice carried warning and in his mouth slightly open. Mr. John, she's been really trying. I saw her studying like late every night. Maybe this semester was just hard. Jungkook's gaze snapped to her for a fleeting second. Softness flickered in his eyes, but it vanished as fast. I wasn't talking to you. Stay out of this. It was coldest tone ever, and Ryan looked away, shutting her eyes in annoyance. And trying isn't enough when you give up halfway. I didn't give up, I just. You lied to me, Seren. His tone raised slightly, Seren clenched like she would be slapped. Just didn't want to disappoint you. And yet you did exactly that. A long pause, the tension in the air was wise. Young, maybe this isn't about just studies. Maybe she needs to do something she actually loves. I want to be designer Opa or a model. I hate this course. I was doing it only because you wanted me to. Life isn't about doing what you love. It's about what keeps you alive, secure, protected. And what's the point of staying alive if you're miserable doing it? It's about life choices, Mr. John. We should always do what we love because that's where we get successful and can live happily, not when we are doing something we are forced to do because it's safe. She cuts him off and spoke with same rage as he did. Listen, sometimes we have to take risk, trust ourselves because it's better to die rather living a life with regrets. We are here to live, not to survive, so let people do what they love. She cuts him off as he glares at her. Are you done? I should be asking you that. Another beat of silence, even Inu was risen. You are speaking like you know everything. No, I am speaking because someone had to. His eyes searched hers, dark, intense, unblinking. Their eyes locked for the first time. Ryan didn't flinch and Jungkook didn't speak. Ryan is absolutely right, Jungkook. He speaks. Papa, please. Jungkook closed his eyes for a second, then opened them with a sigh. You'll switch to design, but you'll show me your serious one chance. Really? You have one shot, Seren. Don't waste it. Seren led to hug him, and for a brief second his arm hesitated before wrapping around her. Mafia was the cold strategist, letting his baby sister cling to him like a child again. Thank you, Upma, you're the best. She broke the hug and Jungkook side-eyed at Ryan, and she looked here and there. You're a magician, Ryan, I'm impressed. He whispers to her, and Ryan looked down, playing with her fingers. What's your order? He came with a box and Jungkook raised his and he handed it to him. It's a cake. She ordered cake Oppa for Ryan, and Ryan closed her eyes. You asked to celebrate. Sarah nodded, smiling widely as she quickly took the box and placed it on the table. That's pretty, come Ryan, she said, and Jungkook's gaze on Ryan while Ryan moved to Sarah. It wasn't needed. Sarah clicked her head slightly. It was indeed needed, she said, pulling her, and she handed her a knife. Cut it, she gestured her as she glanced at Jungkook, just a glance. She slowly sliced the cake as Aaron clapped and Jungkook does too. Sharon quickly handed Jungkook her own. Oppa flicks cake pictures, she said, and Jungkook nodded. Ryan took a slice and extended to Sharon as she took a bite and treat to her. Ryan's gaze shifts to Yuna as she fits in and he feeds her. Congratulations, he muttered and she smiled. Thank you. She replied. Ryan gazed shifts to Jungkook. She looks at Seren and smiled. Thank you. And Seren shook her head. Tofa, she said, pointing at Jungkook, and she didn't look at him, just smiled slightly. Jungkook waited for her, but she didn't come for him, nor even spare a glance to him. And putting the phone aside, he moved towards her, making her heart race as he took a slice to feed her. Congratulations. Ryan's sweat caught just for a second. His hands were steady, holding out the slice of cake to her. Eyes unreadable, face covered in stone. She looked up slowly, meeting his gaze. The sun's second glance held the weight of everything unspoken. With the eye contact broken by her as her phone rings and she glanced at her phone, and Jungkook does too. The name appears Chanel. As he looks up at her, and she does too. Her grip tightened against her fabric and thought fell dry. Excuse me. And she moved aside and Jungkook's gaze moved with her as she went in corner and his face tightened. No, you know, just now I got scolded. I won't come today, she protested. Please, I'm leaving tonight. Just a date. Please, Seren. I'll talk to Jungkook, he insisted. We're here to celebrate Ryan. How on our date popped up? She whispers and, insisted. It's done right. I am on business trip for a week. Then don't do it. I'll talk to him, he said, and Sen tried to stop him. Jungkook, before she could stop him, he approached Jungkook while Jungkook didn't flinch as his gaze fixed on Ryan. He just hummed. Actually, I want to take Sen on date. I'm on business trip for a week, so can I? While he looks lost as Seren peeked at him. Opa, can we? She asked. Okay, his voice was low and smiled. Thank you, let's go, he said and sent Hollow Jungkook's cakes as she shook him a little. Oh, wow. He flinched back as he shifted his gaze to her. Can you drop Ryan home? He said and Jungkook just nodded. He didn't say anything. Zayn's gaze was suspicious. He looked at Ryan and Ryan looked at him as she's done. Ryan, actually, me and going out. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave you in middle. Actually, I insisted I had to. Please don't. Opa will drop you, don't worry, she said, and Ryan glanced at Jungkook. It's okay, I'll go by myself. Actually, I was just going, she said, and Sin stared at her. Wait, is there any problem if Opa will drop you? She asked bluntly, and Ryan looked at her a bit surprised. No, it's not actually. Why to bother him when I can go? Seren, you can go, I'll drop her. He speaks suddenly and Nayan looks at him and her heart drops for a while. Sure. Let's go or we'll get late. Seren nodded. Bye and see you. They walked as her breath caught in her chest. And Nayan feel whenever she tried to run from him or avoid him, the more fate tried to pull her back to him. She watched him leaving and she didn't have courage to look back at him. And she noticed door closing automatically. As her heartbeat fastened and she looks back at him immediately, and he tossed the remote somewhere while his gaze was dark and her eyes widened. Her breath hitched when she saw him start to move, step by step, slowly, deliberately. Her eyes started to the now sealed door behind her. Panic surged in her chest, no way out. He didn't say a word, neither she did. Mine stood still, her eyes starting around the room, trying to avoid his gaze. Her finger wouldn't stop visiting, nervous, unsure, and desperate to keep her emotion from spilling out. Then suddenly she felt it. A warm hand landed on hers. She froze. Her eyes slowly dropped to their hands. His was covering hers, firm but gentle. Stopping her anxious movements for a second, her mind blanked. She didn't move, just stared, then slowly looked up. Jungkook was already watching her, his expression unreadable, not angry, not soft, just focused, like he was searching for something on her face. She swallowed. What are you doing? She asked quietly, trying to pull her hand away, but Jungkook didn't let go. Without saying a word, he started walking, still holding her hand. She gasped, her eyes wide as he pulled her along. Mr. Chan, what are you? Her voice was nervous, but he didn't stop. Before she could protest again, he gently pushed her down onto the couch. Her body tensed immediately, instinctively trying to rise. But he was already kneeling in front of her, his hands still wrapped around hers, grounding her in place. She froze. He reached for the plate, quietly picking up small piece of cake. Then, without a word, he held it out to her. She blinked, glancing at cake, then slowly up at him. The face was calm, but his eyes, there was something different. Something unreadable, not the casual sharpness, not coldness, not even warmth. Just something she couldn't name. And for the first time since she met him, she genuinely had no idea what he was thinking. She didn't eat, and he approaches her again. I told you not to ignore me. His voice was hoarse, and I told you I don't want to talk to you. She replied with coldness. Are you going to be stubborn? He asked, and she glanced at the cake and then him. And she tried to get up, but he held her wrist. And his gaze was straight while Wine shut her eyes, being frustrated. Mr. Vipshan, just because I talked to you a while ago, that doesn't mean I mean to. Her voice was visibly annoyed. You're talking to everyone except me, I saw that. His tone wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that made her heart beat a little faster. She let out a frustrated breath as she tried to pull away, but he didn't let go. Everyone is not you. She looked at him. Because you always hurt me. You always did. And you're still hurting me. Her voice cracked from the weight of everything and set the volume. Jungkook's eyes darkened, his expression unreadable as he slowly rose from his position. Now standing over her, his height and silence pulled the air out of the room. He didn't speak for a second, just looked at her. And quietly, like it wasn't for defense, but because it was the only truth he had. Because it's the way you think. His voice was really a whisper, but it hit her like thunder. She stared up at him, blinking fast. You think I wanted to feel this way, like I don't exist to you unless it's convenient? Her hands curled up into fists. Jungkook didn't blink, he just stood there, taking in her words like each one cut a little deeper. It's your choice always. One moment you act like you care, And the next moment you make me feel like I'm nothing. Her voice broke slightly, a crack beneath the rage, anger born out of the exhaustion, out of pain that's been building for too long. Jungkook's jaws tightened but he didn't interrupt. You're the one who keeps pulling me in, then pushing me away like I'm a some game you get tired of. He took a step back from me, while trembling. I can't keep doing this. I'm not made for this hard and cold John Jungkook. The name left her lips sharper than she meant, but it landed. He stepped forward just once, slowly. His voice came low, rough, but steady. She took a step back, wrapping her arms around herself as if trying to hold herself together before she fell apart completely. Then she met his eyes again,
किसी आसमां से
and the
हमारी
pain
जमीन
hit
पर
full force. I hate the way you treat me. I hate the way you look at me like you care and then act like I never mattered. I hate the way you rejected me. I hate every single time you made me feel small, worthless, replaceable. Tears spilled over now, but she didn't stop. Her voice grew softer, but every word was like one splitting open. But the worst part, the part that actually makes me want to scream, she stepped forward again. Her hands trembled as she hit his chest once. Not hard, just enough to feel he was real. Is that I can't hit you, no matter how hard I try. She hit his chest again, once, then twice, tears running down her cheeks, her eyes rising in rawness. Why can't I hit you, Mr. John? Why can't I hit you? Jungkook didn't move, he just stood there, like her pain was the only thing keeping him standing, like he didn't know the answer either. Her chest was rising and falling in quick, uneven beats, her feet still resting against his chest, her eyes red, furious, searched his like they were begging for a reason, a crack, something, but Jungkook didn't speak. His eyes dropped slowly to her hands on his chest, then back to her face. And for a second, something in his expression broke, not completely, just enough. Then he moved. Because you're never allowed to do that. He speaks out of blue and Vines looks up at him and Vine blinks startled. You were never allowed to love me. His voice was low, rough. Her expression didn't change. Expects for that her lips pressed together, like holding it too much at once. She kept sniffing, wiping her under her eyes, but her gaze didn't move from him. Then his voice dropped again, more bitter now, sharp. You touched something you should have known would burn you. Still you did. His jaws clenched. He wasn't shouting that made worse. You are responsible for your own condition, Wine.
किसी को देख के अगर दीवाना हो जाने की
The
तुम्हारी
words hit
मौत हो
her like slap,
तो
not
मुझसे गुजर
because
के
they were
निकलेगी।
cruel, but because they were cold, distant, and defensive. I know that. You don't need to tell me. She barely got the words out, her throat tightening, but then he pulled her closer. She gasped, her hands stretching tightly against her chest, trying to keep some distance, but he didn't let go. You made us like this. He closed her eyes like he was still hoping to find a version of her that hadn't been heard. I was fine. I was happy. Everything was fine. Why did you have to make it worse? Why did you touch my safe place? Why, please? Just why? What you have seen in me, I'm a miserable monster. The kind of monster you don't have any idea about, Miss Now I am. His voice trembled with something darker than anger, self-hatred. His eyes wasn't wild but wounded, tired. You don't have any idea. He grabbed her arms, pulling her closer like he needed her to hear him, to feel the weight of his words. Tattelwine tried to push him away, her palms pressing against his chest again. But he didn't move. You coward, Mr. Shan. That's what you are. Her voice cracked, fury tangled with grief. She pushed against his chest, her hands trembling. In an instant, he jerked her away. Though it wasn't harsh, not violent, it was more like reflex, a desperate attempt to regain control, to push space between them. but it didn't feel like protection, it felt like retreat. Coward. He chuckled, the sound dry, sharp as a glass. His gaze locked on her while she wiped her tears, his chest rising, falling a little too fast. Then his phone rings. Without breaking eye contact, he yanked the phone out of his pocket, answering the clear aggression. Yes, come in. His voice was low but sharp, almost threatening. The moment felt split, like the call was reality tugging him away from the fire they both stepped into. He ended call without another word, lowered the phone slowly, I still pinned on mine. Then suddenly his hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. His grip was tight, not painful, but firm enough to freeze her where she stood. Mine was twitched furiously, her breath hitching. Mr. Sean, leave my hand. Her voice was sharp, commanding, but it didn't even flinch. You love to love height. Let me give you a reality check. His voice dropped an octave, coded in something dangerous, something unrecognizable. Her heart jumped, her brows straightened as confused and fear danced behind her fury. He began walking, dragging her with him. Shashan let go of my hand. Hey, what are you doing? She pulled back, heels dug in, but his grip didn't lose. And then, in one swift movement, he turned her, bent slightly, and lifted her into his arms just like that. Put me down. Her feet landed on his wrist one after another, but it didn't stop. He didn't even blink. She struggled, her voice full of protest, but he walked like a fury was straight yes. His jaw was clenched, eyes burning, steps heavy with determination. Jungkook stormed out of the car, slamming the door behind him as he circled to her side. Wine's chest rose with panic when he yanked her door open. He grabbed her wrist from unshakable and pulled her out of the car like a broken piece. She stumbled, colliding into his chest. Let go of me, please. Her breath was red, heart thundering. She looked around at the unfamiliar surroundings, building looming like silent witness. Where is taking me? Her voice trembled as she tried to shrink back, but his shadow loomed over her. His eyes were wild now, not with rage, but something more dangerous, resolve. He reached and grabbed her wrist again, firm and unyielding. To the world you claimed you wanted to be in. His eyes met hers, burning, taunting, hurt. You wanted love, right? Let me show you what it really cost. Here we, this is true. Her voice echoed off the walls. Her breath was shallow now. He took a step closer and she looked at him staring. You will never love me again after this. A whisper, but it hit like thunder. His eyes held strong, a truth he dared but believed. Because I make sure you don't. He whispers as before she could speak. Mr. John. She whispered his name like a play, but he didn't turn and began walking, dragging her behind him. Her steps stumbled, but he didn't pause. The door slammed as Taehyung looked at him, followed by everyone else. Taehyung got up. Jungkook he's about to rush him, but stopped as he saw a girl with him, fragile, careful. His wrist caught in Jungkook's grip. Her eyes searched the unfamiliar faces like a trapped animal. The others stirred. Jimin looked up from the corner, Jean's brows knit together in concern. Jimin sat forward, slowly watching Jungkook's face. Mine's voice trembled as she looked around the living space, utterly out of place. Please let me go. Taehyung took a step forward again, cautious but sharp now. Jungkook, what is this? Jungkook didn't answer. He stood there, a shadow of himself, jaw locked, darkness swimming in his eyes. Jungkook's lips loosened for the first time, but not enough. His voice strained, controlled rage. She wanted to love a monster. Let her see what that means. Vine pulled her hand free at that moment. Stumbling slightly backward, her chest rose with panic, and she tried to run away. Lock the doors, he growled, voice sharp like blades slicing through the room. His man moved without question, silence. The heavy door shut with a thud. the lock clicking into place like a verdict. The sound made Ryan blanch. She turned to run, but her escape was already stolen. She stumbled, breath quickening, as panic clawed at her chest. Her heel caught the rug, and before she could fall, Jungkook's arm shot out, catching her, but it wasn't gentle. He gripped her by her arm again, spinning her towards him, and for a second, just a second, the rage in his eyes flattered. There was something else beneath it, something broken. Why are you doing this to me? Because I want you. I told you what I was. She didn't listen. He stepped closer. She stepped back. Her body pressed to the wall now. Nowhere to run. Enough, Jungkook. He moved forward this time, not stopping, his hands outstretched toward the gun. She's scared. Let her go. This isn't you. He approached him, glancing at Ryan. Don't interfere, Taeyong. His tone was venom, slicing through the room like a blade. Ryan struggled harder, breathing as she yanked her arm, but his grip held until finally it slacked. Jungkook, I said no one will interfere. The world shook with his voice, even Jimin flinched. Jungkook turned to Ryan, eyes burning with both pride and pride. Don't move from here if you don't want to see my wrath. Did you get that? His voice was low now, sharp as night. Ryan stared back, red shaking, but she didn't know. Didn't answer. Her silence screamed louder than words. He dropped her wrist completely, turning with a strong ring in his chest. Where is he? Young didn't blink, he just stared at Jungkook, eyes layered with disbelief, sadness, and something unspoken. Jungkook's man stepped aside, revealing the figure tied to the chair at the far end of the room. The man's face was bruised, blood draining down the corner of his lip, and his gaze deafened, fierce. He met Jungkook's eyes and didn't look away. You're still hiding behind your monster shrunk. Jungkook's jaws tightened. His teeth curled. Jungkook's eyes locked onto man tied to the chair across the room, his chest harrowing once, then stilled. The air grew thicker with tension. Jungkook removed his blazer as he glanced at Ryan, who was terrified as hell. As he extended his hand, without a word, one of his men placed a sleek black gun into his palm. Jungkook didn't even glance down. His eyes never left the man tied to the chair. He shot a sharp blade at him. The rod, I want to hear his name. He ordered, and Taeyang rolled his eyes. You are still stained, little coward Sean, always needing the chains to feel powerful. I would have blown your head that day only. He mocked at him. Untie him, he ordered. Jungkook completely lost it. He's provoking you. You need information from him. He speaks. And Jungkook folded his sleeves. He's useless trash, he said coldly. Taeyang looks at Ryan, who is standing there scared and terrified, as her body shaking, looking at around, who's full of unknown faces, and then they heard a knock. So he just let her in. He said without moving his gaze as his man untying her. So he walks in as she looks around, and her eyes landed on Ryan, and she frowned and looked at Jungkook. Mr. John, please let me go, she pleaded, and Jungkook glanced at her. So he blinked. She hadn't stepped fully inside before Jungkook commanded pose in her place. So he held her. Ryan backed away instantly, shaking her head, her voice cracking through the tension. No, no, don't touch me, please. Jungkook swung the rod into the man's shins, the metal colliding with the bone. The man cried out raw and guttural as his knees buckled, blood speckled the floor beneath him. Ryan screamed, her legs gave out. She would have collapsed if Sohee hadn't caught her. Jungkook shifted his gaze to her eyes shutting tightly in fear, and ear covered with her hands. Well, Sohee is holding her. Open your eyes, Ryan, look at me, he commanded while Ryan cried, shaking her head. No, no, she cried. I said open your damn eyes, Ryan. But Ryan sobbed harder, her hands clamped over her ears like she could block him, and the world out her knees. tremble, and so he pulled her closer, trying to steady the girl who felt like ghost in her arms. Jungkook, please stop it. Can't you see she is scared? He speaks as Jungkook shifts his gaze to Taehyung. Say that you love her, Ryan. He whispered in low husky voice as he shifted his gaze to hers. Ryan shook her head vigorously. No, please don't do this. Her voice is shaky and terrified. Please let me go. He screamed all of a sudden. Jungkook turned with terrified speed, the steel rod still clutched in his hand, his chains twisted in fury as he brought it down. The rod slammed into the man's ribs with a force that echoed against the wall. The man screamed, his body jolting violently on the floor, blood flying from his mouth. But Jungkook didn't stop. Each blow was a storm unreleased, his knuckles white around the rod, veins bulging in his forearms. The man's head dropped forward, shoulder convulsing, but Jungkook kept hitting him. Shoulder, thigh, stomach. Every strike fueled by something deeper than rage, something broken. Vine sobbed uncontrollably. Her hands still pressed to her ears. She couldn't look, but she could hear it. Every sickening sound, every gasp of pain. Ting finally turned his face away, jaws clenched, breath trembling. Vine couldn't breathe, her body jerked instantly, a sob ripping from her throat as she squeezed her eyes shut tighter. But even in darkness behind her eyelids, she could see it. The glint of metal, the flash of fury Jungkook's eyes, the crimson state painting the floor. Suddenly she collapsed on the floor, screaming as Jungkook stopped hearing her scream, and she cried out loud. His gaze flickered for a second, and so he tried to hold her, but she didn't let her touch. And Taeyang also held at his place. Stop! Stop! As he saw her body trembling badly. The rod slipped from his hand as he gulped his lump down. Holding his coldness, he looked at her again, and he took a slow step towards her while she was trembling badly. So he moved aside as he knelt down to her level. He held her hand softly, squishing as she looks at him. By now she is a complete mess, while Ryan looks at him disgusted because of the blood all over his body, and she tried to take her hand back, but he held her tighter. His gaze darkened again like a storm clouds collapsing over fire. He pulled her closer, finger curling around the nape of her neck as she writhed in resistance, pushing piercingly against his chest. But he didn't loosen his grip. He stared deep into her eyes. Those eyes that one held ocean for him. Now they were hollow, distant, laced with nothing but disgust. Touch me. This is me. Shah Jungkook. The Jungkook you love. His voice cracked in a whisper as her sob deepened and her body shaking violently. Just look at me, Ryan, he shouted, the sharpness of his tone slicing through the room like a knife, making her flinch as a hood struck her. And he reached to cup her face, but she recoiled instantly, her voice broken. Who touched me? He gave a pain, hollow smile, too twisted to be called sad. He swallowed it down quickly, masking it behind a dead calm. And then, without hesitation, he yanked her even closer by her neck, forcing her to gasp through the sob that escaped her lungs. Look in my eyes, Ryan. His hot breath touching her face as she sobbed helplessly, and her eyes are red and teary. As she looks up slowly in his eyes, the hardened ones and her bleeding ones. This is the truth. This is me. This is where I belong to. Did you get that? He expressed, clencing his jaws while soft whimper left from her mouth, making his heart to slow down slightly, and she sobbed softly. He watched her face like a prey, her bleeding red eyes, her trembling lips, tears flowing down her cheeks. He looks at every small details of her, that how terrified she is. He felt like his gaze are just burning her alive. Please, Mr. Sean, please let me go. I'm scared. Her voice cracked on each word, like her throat had been torn apart by fear itself. Slowly and hauntingly, he raised his other gun hand, and her eyes followed its path. Her body went rigid, the cold steel of the gun brushed against her cheek, like a cruel kiss. You must be hitting me right now. Let me guess. His voice was knife dipped in honey. You must wait me. You don't like me anymore, right? His lips stretched into a painful smile, one that begged for mercy, even while he held the power in his palm. I hate myself a lot, he said with a chuckle. Across the room, they exchanged a helpless glance at Jen and Jimmy. Their eyes were wide, shoulder tense. None of them dared to move, so he frozen, turned her face away and squeezed her eyes shut, as if hoping the moment would vanish if she refused to say it. Why? His voice dipped lower, too soft, too broken, like he was talking to a ghost only he could see. He raised his hand, palm trembling faintly, and stared at it. His lips clenched into a thin line as he showed it to her. From this hit, I have killed a lot of people. His voice cracked, not from weakness, but from the unbearable weight of it. His hand lingered in air like it still remembered the lives it ended. A lot of them. Countless. The word fell from his mouth like stone into a dark well, heavy and echoing. Wine choked on her breath, shoulders shaking violently, her lungs held tight, like grief had wrapped itself around her lips and refused to let it go. And I don't even know how many. He took his head slowly, stubbornly, like he was trying to convince himself to. Her sobs deepened at his confession, sharp, broken sound that echoed through the hollow of the room like a deep prayer. He removes the gun from her jaw as she turned it other side without looking there. Jungkook no before Young stops him, he shot straight, 6 bullets without blinking. One line covered her ears and shut her eyes tightly while Jungkook's eyes fixed on her. Her body rocked with every gunshot, even though her palms tried to shut it out. Still, she held each one in her chest, even though she was covering her ears. Jungkook never flinched, his eyes, stone cold, remained locked on her the whole time, as if watching her pain drown in his own. Then Scott turned his face, teeth clenched. He's standing at his side, his silence louder than the protest. His chunky gaze on her fragile body, and the room fell silent, covered with Wine's soft soap. Wine's soft, fragile breath, heart-wrenching sob that barely escaped her lips. Her figure curled up like a broken flower, trembling, soaked in fear. Jungkook's arm slowly lowered, smoke curling from nozzle of the gun. The air was thick, clogged with the stench of the gunpowder, and something heavy, a quick guilt madness. He walked behind the man now painted in red confirmed that it was over. The silence it left behind was louder than the bullets. Wine trembled, her body curled up on her side. Her knees had dug into her own scar, where she gripped her head, ears still pressed tight. Even with her eyes shut, she felt his gaze on her, heavy, scorching, impossible to escape. To do, Jungkook, his voice cracked fury, barely caged behind the words. He took a step forward but then stopped. Because Jungkook wasn't looking at him, Jungkook's voice had narrowed to her, to the curve of her shaking shoulder, the sharp little whimpers that she didn't even realize she was making the way she blinched because of him. His lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Wine slowly lifted her head, eyes glassy and dead, breath hitching in her throat as her gaze landed on the man in front of her. The man who had once held her heart now stood over the corpse with the blood on his hand. She looked at him like he was a stranger, like he was a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. You are a monster. A smile appears on his face, which is hollow, a grin, like he won and lost at the same time. And it hit him like a bullet. And then eyes flickered. Something inside him cracked. Her words didn't cut him. They burned through, like a bullet he hadn't seen coming. His smile trembled at the edges, like it didn't know whether to fade or grow darker. He slowly leaned back on his heels, eyes still locked on her, like he couldn't look away. Even then it hurt. A monster. He repeated under his breath, like the word who hadn't branded itself on his skin. Mine got a wiping her tears hit the back of her trembling hands. Her body swayed like sleep, barely holding her weight, so he reached out instantly, but Wine jerked away. Don't please. Jungkook looked up at her like a dead corpse. She got up slowly, eyes fixed on her. She took a step forward, then another, her breath hitching violently as her vision swam. Jungkook's eyes now left her hollow and wide, like he was staring at something slipping away from him forever. Her finger clutched her head as sharp, overwhelming dizziness crashed down like a tidal wave. Everything's fine. Can't her scream out. But before her body could hit the floor, arms wrapped around her. Strong blood stream trembling, he caught her against his chest, almost stumbling himself under the death weight of her collapse. She was limp in her hold, and her head tipped beneath his chin. Her sobs were now weak and gasping. His hand cradled the back of her head, the other around her waist, fingers clutching her like if he let her go, she would vanish from existing. Her vision got blurry, and while Jungkook's eyes softened finally. Jungkook didn't flinch, he couldn't. He just stood there holding her as if her weight rounded the last human part of her. His jaws tightened and now flicking his eyes once wild. Now looked hollow, bruised with everything he couldn't say. The girl who once whispered the love into his darkness now slipping into silence because of him. Mine's eyes closed slowly as she couldn't bear the weight of those heaviness. His tongue grazed her cheek, trembling. His thumb brushed her cheeks, those are stained because of tears. And his lips trembled slightly, hands are shaking like he's touching something fragile. And his slight touch would burn her. He looks at her almost lifeless body in his arms. His lips trembled as he leaned slightly and pressed his lips on her cheeks, and his one tear dropped on her cheeks as he felt the heaviness in his throat. That it hurt him like hell. He was say a word. And when he pulled her closer, hugging her tightly, closing his eyes, he pulled her closer as if his embrace could undo the damage.